Hello everyone, welcome back to the Bobbeyonce YouTube channel. I'm of course your host, Bobbeyonce, and it's an honor and privilege as it is. I don't know why I was doing the John Campea thing for a second. It's an honor and privilege as it is every day to have you. But I wanted to come back because there were two movies I saw this past week that were both in the horror genre that really serve as polar opposites. You have the full mainstream corporate example of a horror film, and then you have this indie horror film that is kind of so far up its own, that it meets the other one at the opposite somehow. They come around and get together.
Now that you nerds are done, let's move on to some real fucking movies.
The Strangers Chapter 1 is the first in a trilogy of new Strangers movies coming from Renny Harlin, who you may know from Die Hard 2, Cutthroat Island, The Legend of Hercules. Yep, that one. And The Strangers as a franchise, it's never been one I've loved. The original one I appreciate because I like some of the more subtle scares of that film where someone will just be in the background and it goes completely unacknowledged. And I think scares like that are really unsettling, so I appreciate it for that, while I find the film to be kind of bland. But Prey at Night is a film that's kind of had a reevaluation in recent years. I've seen a lot of people coming around on it, although it was poorly received at the time. For me, I don't understand that. I felt like it was a super generic slasher film that was trying to capitalize on the 80s wave that was coming in following Stranger Things. Although I did like the total eclipse of the heart kill scene, I have to say Bottoms did it better. Bottoms did that song much better. Other than that, it just did not work for me at all. The reason I saw this in the first place is because I had nothing better to do. AMC A-list. Another reason I went to see this is because I heard it was maybe worse than Madam Web, and I just knew that wasn't possible because Madam Web is in a league of its own. As far as the bad movie Olympics of 2024, that one has already taken the gold medal. The ceremony has happened. It's a wrap.
Ezekiel Sims is a fascinating villain. He seeks out a secret tribe in Peru who possess inhuman strength and health. Been searching for that spider for years.
And who knows, maybe Renny Harlin was going into this film thinking, okay, I'm gonna take the subtle scares from the original film that people love, and I'm gonna take some of the campier slasher elements and 80s vibes from the Prey at Night film and combine them into a really fun, creepy movie. Do you think that's what they did? Nope. The Strangers Chapter 1 is the most cliche horror film I maybe have ever seen. The film offers nothing.
Oh, call declined. Embarrassing.
If we're talking recapturing some of the creepy moments from the original film, there's maybe one shot similar to it. The difference is that this film uses that manipulative cliche horror score of when something is in the background, they have a sound cue like a to really let you know, hey, there's something in the background that you're not seeing. Not to mention all the other scenes that are maybe more in vein with that one. Once again, that really manipulative score, someone walking down a hallway, the score really starts to grow, then it completely goes away. So you think it's over, you think it's safe, and then someone will be like, hey, sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. How are you doing? This kind of stuff is so tired. There's absolutely nothing original here. And going to Prey at Night, if we're talking about maybe some of the kills are going to be inspired in this one. There are a total of 3, technically 2, but 3 kills in this film. None of them offer anything. Maybe one has a little blood splatter, I guess. The other ones are the most lame possible way someone could be taken out. I was in shock at how little they did with this big IP. Another thing I do want to point out is the first 15 to 20 minutes of this film, the dialogue is awful. Like, they go into this town where everyone sees them as outsiders and is always getting involved in their conversations in these really forced and uncomfortable ways. And you could argue, oh, well, the town is supposed to be creepy and unified. Maybe, but if that's what you're going for, ultimately, without spoiling it, it means nothing. Maybe in chapter 2 and 3, they'll set up that the town is full of strangers. I don't know. Maybe they set them up into this place that was actually creepy. Who knows? All I know is that I don't care. I'm not going to find out because there is zero chance that I'm going to sit through chapter 2 and chapter 3 of this. Coming out of this film was really depressing because I love horror. Horror is my favorite genre. I studied it a lot in school. It means a lot to me. I have many fond memories, whether it's going to the movie theater or watching horror films with my parents. I really love horror. So to see someone with so many resources completely drop the ball like this, it's sad. Moving on from The Strangers, we have the new film distributed by IFC Films and Shudder, and it's called In a Violent Nature. Chris Nash is the director of this, and he made the ABCs of Death 2 short film, Z is for Zygote. And I haven't seen that film in a long time, but from what I remember, that short film definitely ended that anthology on a really bizarre and unsettling note. What makes this film unique is that it takes the alternative route to making a horror slasher film. So in this film, instead of following the group of teenagers, you're following this killer for the whole movie. So every step he makes in the woods, every little action he does, you're gonna see it. When I saw the trailer for this and all the quotes they had in the trailer hyping it up, I thought this sounded like a really innovative, interesting take. As much as I enjoy slasher films, they can become a little monotonous in one note when you've seen so many of them because you notice all these cliches. It becomes a lot harder to stand out among the genre. So I went into this film with the right expectations, knowing what it was, knowing it was gonna be very slow and experimental, and I came out of it kind of mixed.
Everything looks good. I think this time it's going to work.
Warning.
And while there are aspects that I really appreciate that they stuck to in regard to the authenticity, there are other ones that they didn't, or they cut to other characters instead of the killer, which I feel kind of betrays the concept. Even if you were sticking to the killer the whole time, it does become quite monotonous and boring toward the end. But that's not to say I didn't like things about this. So for example, I really like the design of the killer. You don't really get a good look at the killer's face until maybe 45, 50 minutes into the movie, and I thought the way they chose to reveal his face was actually very effective, creepy, unsettling, and surprising, and I quite enjoyed that. The kills that the film has are very real and honest and brutal. There's only one kill that I can say is particularly memorable, and it's the one everyone's talking about, and I would kind of temper expectations because while it is a great kill, is it an all-timer? I wouldn't say so. I think if you go to Mortal Kombat X or whichever, Mortal Kombat 1 I think is what they're on now, you're gonna find a more satisfying kill, but it nonetheless still a cool kill. And there's one other one that I really liked because it really took advantage of the film being slow paced, that it also had the kill be extremely realistic in how long it would really take for something to go through someone's body, and I actually really liked that. But other than those, the rest of the kills are kind of simplistic. Whether someone gets hit by something or a quick axe, nothing too crazy going on, but you can also say that just kind of gives credence to the entire point of the film, which is to depict this in a more realistic and simplistic way. Although the pacing is kind of the Achilles heel of the film by the end of it, for the first half, I was really enjoying just being in the woods and having this kind of therapeutic experience. I feel really morbid saying that when I'm following a serial killer in the woods. I enjoyed the nature, although violent. And going off of the sound, that's something I also really admired about this film because the score is where a horror film can be really manipulative nowadays. In this film, nothing. So you can say, well, because of that, there's no tension, but isn't that the point? Isn't that what we're doing is kind of taking the cliche slasher film and turning it on its head to see this other side of it? So because of that, I really enjoyed that choice. It made the kills almost feel more raw and disgusting and brutal, especially one where at a point I'm just thinking in my head, Yeah, dude, I think you got him.
Stop! He's already dead.
So overall, I'm glad I saw the film, but I definitely have my share of issues with it. Because while it's a really exciting exercise in horror, I find it to be a really tiresome one. And I don't just mean because we're following the killer the whole time. It's because the film also kind of breaks its own rules. So we'll be following the killer for a while, but then we'll get a 5-minute scene around a campfire where a bunch of kids are just talking about this killer bear and then this other horror story. Isn't this just a scene that we'd see in a cliche horror film? I don't really see the purpose of this. This scene, along with a few other ones, especially one toward the end, the last 10-15 minutes of this movie, without spoiling it, I found to be completely unnecessary and kind of a waste of time, even though the film's only 90 minutes long. These scenes that really just go against what this film was supposed to represent in the first place kind of ruin the film. And although I did enjoy the pacing for the first half of the film, I had a thought cross my mind toward the end that kind of ruined the whole film for me, because I thought of the scene in Birdemic where the guy is driving across town and just doing his daily activities, and you see every single part. You see the entire drive. Because of that, that completely destroys the pacing, because these are scenes in any other movie that they just cut out and we see them at the next location. But just like Birdemic, this film documents nearly every single step this killer takes. They do make a few cuts. There are some points where it's going to take him a long time to walk because he's a kind of a slow man. So they cut to maybe a different part of the day, but it still can feel completely tiresome. If this had been a short film, maybe 30 minutes or even 45 minutes, I think it could have been really great and really effective. But as it is, it's more something I admire in concept, and that's kind of it. So to go back to my reasoning for grouping these two films together, I feel like they really are polar opposites. We have this mainstream Hollywood, complete cash grab, corporate, uninspired film, and then you have this film from a really unique voice in independent horror, but it's almost so unique and so full of itself that it turns around and kind of becomes almost as agonizing as the mainstream example. In a Violent Nature is yet another example of this new subgenre of horror that I've kind of discovered called endurance test horror. That's my official phrase. That's what I'm calling these. Skinamarink, The Outwaters, Einsmen, if I pronounce that right, and now In a Violent Nature. These are horror films that are really unique and in some ways pretty inspired and great, and they have their fans for sure. I love Skinamarink. But while they have their fans, to some people they can be completely agonizing, one-dimensional, and monotonous. In a Violent Nature serves as yet another example of this, because while there are moments that are fantastic, viewing the whole film in its 95-minute runtime, it can be kind of the task. Did this film need to have a 15-minute monologue at the end not even revolved around the killer? Personally, no, but I'm sure the film has its fans, and it definitely does, with the film having over 80% of Rotten Tomatoes. So there are people who are loving this film, and that's great. For me, I appreciate it. I like it to an extent, but can I say with a straight face that I thought it was great? Unfortunately, no. So if you made it to the end of the video, let me know in the comments. What did you think about The Strangers Chapter 1? What did you think about In a Violent Nature? Have you seen them both? Let me know which one you preferred. Let me know if I'm completely wrong in my takes. I'm open to that too. And yeah, I guess I'll talk to you all in the next one. See you later.
I get that you're very limited in your knowledge of film and television, but not everyone else is as limited as you. And to judge the world through your own limitations is not the way to go about this, right?